Bad management. Almost everyone who has worked a job has come across a bad manager at some point. And if you haven't, then kudos to you. Most people are too afraid to stand up to their boss as they fear losing their job. But what happens when you just stop caring about losing your job and decide to do whatever it takes to eliminate this life-sucking leech of a boss? You're soon to find out on today's episode of r/ProRevenge. Let's get right into it. In my first job at a university, I was hired to be IT support and to build a ticketing website for a charity of about 100 staff in England. Unfortunately, however, my first ever boss was insane. One of the main reasons I was hired was to be in charge of the whole website project and to do most of the work. But from the moment I arrived at the charity, my boss deliberately sabotaged my work to make me look bad and to make her look good. She took credit for every success, and I took the blame for every failure. For months and months, I gave her the benefit of the doubt, from March when I was hired until roughly December when shit really began to kick off. Phase 1. In late November, I emailed all the higher staff members in the charity to give them an update on how things were progressing with the website. 13 staff members in total. 5 of them emailed me back, with everyone else copied in, asking for more information on certain points. I began replying, but my boss came and told me not to reply. I told her that would make it look like I didn't know how to reply or that I was refusing to reply, but she assured me she would reply. Over a week passed and she did not reply, so I even drafted a template she could use because I was tearing my hair out at the stress of it all. Still no reply. Angry complaints started arriving in my inbox from directors. A week later in early December, on one of the only 4 days I had off sick last year, she hastily arranged a meeting in which she told all the major players on the project that I had been removed from the project completely due to incompetence, and never to talk to me about the project. She did not tell me I was off the project. The next day when I was back in the office, she arranged another meeting without me knowing, that included loads of other people, and she reiterated the same thing, that I had been removed from the project and to never talk to me about it. I didn't even know the meeting was happening. Not knowing I had been removed from the project, I kept working on it, but wondered why I stopped getting replies from the others who were involved. A week later, in a meeting with all the other major players in attendance, my boss reprimanded me constantly in front of everyone for not knowing I had been removed from the project. That was the first time I knew I'd been removed from the project, and it was seriously depressing. My role in the project was reduced to that of background support, with no involvement in anything substantial. My boss took over the entire running of the project, and from then onwards, absolutely nothing happened for 3 months. Every job I had been progressing with stalled, was set back, and was done completely incorrectly, and the entire project temporarily derailed. Phase 2. The stupidest thing I did was to start working on the project again, purely because I saw nobody else was doing anything, and I hoped it might make my boss treat me fairly if I saved the damn thing. The February 21st go live to the public date had long passed when I started picking up little jobs that I knew I could quickly get done. By the end of March, of course, the project was way past its due date, but instead of being a case of, holy crap OP, thanks for saving this project, it had instead become possible to pin all the blame on me, because to anyone who didn't know, it might look like I'd been the one in charge all along. My boss started with the "this should have been done months ago" routine. On April 1st, we technically had our go live to the public day with a battered piece of garbage website running off a messy SQL database. There was still an absolute mountain to climb in terms of getting stuff done, but since we'd quote-unquote gone live, the third-party support team who helped me through the whole project asked my boss to sign off on the project. On April 4th, my boss allowed the company to sign off on the project so that for the rest of the mountain of work that had again become mine, I had almost no support on a unique system that no one else understands. Most of the times I tried to work on something from then on, the third-party company would ask for payment since the boss had stupidly decided to host on this company's servers, and only my boss was able to authorize payment. I chased her constantly about it, but until I actually approached our account manager myself 2 months later, she did nothing, but was able to use the fact that lots of the jobs now assigned to me weren't getting done as a means of making everyone else think I was the reason the website sucked. From mid-March until the end of May, I worked 110% on the project with this shit going on. Everything I completed, my boss took credit for. Everything I didn't get done, my boss used to discredit me. Phase 3. In mid-May, a catch-up meeting was demanded by the directors of the charity to find out why the project was doing so badly. So my boss instantly, the same day, started setting me up to take the blame, with, "As you know, this job was on the list months ago. If you remember, this job requires you to fix problem that was actually her fault, etc., etc., etc. The meeting was scheduled for May 30th, and I knew what was coming. Just like dozens of other meetings before, my boss was going to shit all over me in front of everyone. There were 2 weeks until the meeting. My boss went on holiday, so I started to prepare my defense. I created a folder full of printed out emails that I could use as evidence against her. I anticipated every attack she would make. It really paid off in the end. On May 28th, the first day after she got back from holiday, 2 days before the meeting, she had me come alone into her office. She said the failure of the project was entirely my fault, that I blamed others for my own mistakes, which was pure hypocrisy, that I was incompetent, that I was lazy, that I had a bad attitude, that I should not be working in the IT sector, that I was not intelligent enough to work in an office atmosphere. She offered mother-like consultation to me as I tried to explain as calmly as possible how she was wrong. It was gut-wrenching. She truly is an abomination. After the meeting, I went straight to the charity's HR director in the first of many meetings that would become my formal grievance against my boss. I ended up standing my ground in that meeting though. I didn't give an inch. The next day, May 29th, my boss approached me again and tried to get me to break again. But I held firm and corrected her on every bit of bullshit she tried to make me believe. She was shaking a lot. I again went to the HR director. Bear in mind that this is a snapshot of just one project we worked on together. I would say though, it encompasses at least half of the shit she put me through. And it was the reason I eventually lodged a grievance against her. Phase 4. The next day, my boss took away all the jobs from me again and once again screwed me over. She also finally got in touch with the third-party support company, threatened not to pay them, and then finally all those jobs I had lined up to be completed were done, which my boss took all the credit for. Look how quick she was able to do it after I spent months. The day after that, I formally emailed the HR director and began the grievance process against my boss. First of all, my emails began disappearing, the ones which could be used as evidence. My boss actually changed the password to my domain account and deleted a lot of emails I could have used against her. This all helped in my grievance though, because I had most of them, the important ones, printed out and backed up. I began making weekly backups of all my emails, set it up so that every email that entered my inbox was automatically forwarded to her personal Gmail account. I made backups of all my work on our shared network because that started looking weird too. I lost a lot of weight from stress. Last year, I took 4 days off sick. During June, I had 8 days off sick. Despite the ongoing grievance, my boss went into overdrive. She had meetings with everyone she could convince that I was an a-hole and proceeded to utterly screw me over. Our third-party IT support almost refused to work with me because they thought I was telling everyone they were shit. When the tables turned on my boss after I delivered all that evidence to the HR investigators, her only option was to take a lot of time off work. On the day the judgment was delivered that my grievance was upheld on all points, my boss went home early. Phase 5. For almost the entire month of July, my boss was quote-unquote off sick. On July 30th, the directors of charity announced a full staff meeting in the charity at which they announced that my boss had resigned, but I later discovered she was fired. The next day, a massive unofficial staff party was announced with, I shit you not, a ding dong the witch is dead theme. I thought it would be wise not to attend though. I have to continue to keep all of this confidential. My boss continues her malicious behavior though. She's now resorted to meeting individually outside of work time with those staff members who didn't hate her. Mind you, there are very few who didn't hate her, and those wealthy members of the local community who are involved with the charity, essentially to fish for evidence she can use against me and the charity as a whole for firing her, but also to continue her campaign of discrediting me personally. There are going to be a lot of relationships that will take a long time to mend. It's like being constantly pursued by an evil entity that actually goes out of its way to hurt you. It's difficult to completely relax about it all, but I've just come back from 2 amazing holidays and I've gotten kind of used to it. I still feel like there will be something waiting for me in the future, but I think her options are all out, and I can finally move on with my life. The real shit thing is that everyone comes across so many of these malicious people in life. I find it really difficult to trust anyone. It seems so difficult to continue life as normal when you might have someone who will dedicate themselves to hurting you. My old boss was the head of operations for charity, but is now the secretary at an auctioneer after what seems like 6 months unemployed.